Of all the Flash games I played as a kid, Superfighters stood out for the way it portrayed the feeling of being in an action movie. The game is chaotic, it's unpredictable, but most importantly, the game is fun. And looking back at it all these years later, it seems all the more impressive that a small 2D Flash game from 2011 was able to capture the atmosphere of live-action Hollywood set pieces from movies like Die Hard. But that's exactly what the developers did with Superfighters. So here's 3 elements of the game that I felt best shows off this comparison. Superfighters has pretty straightforward controls. Arrows to move, you can melee, shoot, throw grenades, and use specials. But what elevates these controls are the animations of player movements. You can sprint off rooftops and faceplant, or if you duck while sprinting, you can Superman dive off rooftops and land into barrel rolls, negating any damage. You can bunny hop across platforms, trying to avoid acid pits, or you can dodge bullets zipping past you, setting off barrels and jerry cans. But if you catch on fire and don't put it out, you will be burnt to a crisp.
Cole's delicious RSPCA approved hot roast chickens.
One thing that never got old was the satisfying destruction that occurs during the action. The way glass panels and light bulbs shatter as you pummel it with bullets, and how office cabinets, tables, computers, all of them just go flying as you throw grenades into rooms. Or how the player models convey the impact of gunshots and explosions, often being thrown back aggressively. The sound design also does a great job of complementing this visual carnage, whether it be the pistol hammer cocking back, the clicking of empty magazines, or the sound of bullets ricocheting off metal platforms and destroying the environment while setting off chain reactions, very reminiscent of those classic action set pieces. The weapons in the game fall into 3 categories: melee, firearms, and explosives. In terms of melee, in classic beat-em-up fashion, some of the weapons are just not fun to use. They ultimately just come down to who can spam the fastest, like hand combat for example, which is especially bad when fighting multiple enemies from both sides, as you'll quickly be overwhelmed by stun locks and knockbacks. But most of the weapons in the game pack a great punch, and they have varied uses depending on your distance to your enemy. And key weapons like the assault and sniper rifle are excellent, and in the right hands they are absolutely devastating. But probably my favorite weapon in the game is the bazooka. Not for its practicality, as it's pretty inaccurate, but my god does it easily have the best kill animation in the game, giving the victims the ability to steer the rocket before impact, meaning with some skill, but mostly luck, you can actually kill the person who shot you in the first place. There's also one power-up in the game, the slow motion pickup, which gives you bullet time for 5 to 10 seconds, and even though functionally it isn't really that useful, you can still pull off some sick looking dodges if you time it right. I think the real star of the show though is the unspoken weapon of the game, which are the maps and the player's ability to interact with them. The various explosives littered throughout every map, the acid pit and the creatively named hazardous map, and wooden crates which you can shoot and crush enemies with being the key ones. All of these elements combine to build a great sense of unpredictability that the players can tap into. Press a button to drop objects on enemies, run away as the glass floor beneath you shatters. Set alight a group of explosives making a large part of the map literal hell. Or swivel on the wrong end of a bazooka shot in a desperate attempt to navigate it back to the guy that shot you. The artistic design, the weapons, and maps all work together to deliver a great experience. But it's not a perfect game. And yes, I know you're watching this video to get incredible hot takes such as Flash game isn't perfect, but let me explain. I remember it taking several hours across a few sessions with my brother to beat the final stage in the game, consisting of 3 hard bots. Now this was probably because we were straight ass, but coming back and playing the game now, I finished all of the stages in around 20 minutes by myself, and the insane challenge that was the last level back then, this time around, I beat it entirely through RNG. And that sort of pointed to the fact that the goofy action and randomness are all part of the game's charm and style, and I love it, but when you look at it from a gameplay standpoint, it was pretty frustrating when something out of your control kills you, or you go into a level expecting a challenge only for the AI to sort of completely fall flat. Another main drawback with the game was the control scheme. And the main reason for this is because often one input has more than one action. For example, if you wanted to move in a direction, you would press left or right. But if you wanted to sprint in that direction, you would double tap left or right. So sometimes you'll tap a movement key to micro adjust and start sprinting off an edge to your death, and other times you'll want to start sprinting but the game doesn't register the double tap and you end up just mashing the movement key and stop starting. If you want to shoot, the shoot button is the same as the aim button, meaning you have to hold down the aim key, aim, and then release it to shoot. And it's this control scheme that adds to a lot of the wacky random shit that happens in the game, but often this random shit feels like it happens to the player rather than the player instigating any of these events on their own. In this sense, Superfighters is this weird game where its unpredictable chaos is both its greatest strength and the greatest weakness. Where the high of sprinting through fire, narrowly avoiding a bullet that would have killed you, jumping up on a platform and shooting a crate that kills the guy chasing you, is equally matched by the low of seeing two hard mode bots tripping over completely unprovoked like a bunch of geriatrics and falling straight into an acid pit. Overall, I've got really great memories of this game, and some of you probably do as well. Even though there's not much content, it's free, it's made with great artistic intent, and it's really good fun with a friend or sibling. It does have a sequel of sorts, with more weapons, mechanics, maps, and changes to the base game, which I might try for another video. But I guess until then,